India and the region. I am Anil Thomas. And for the news from the rest of the world, I am joined by my colleague, Caroline Malone from Washington, D.C. Good evening, Caroline.
Good morning, Anil. It's 9 a.m. here in Washington, D.C. and 3 in the afternoon across Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, we explore the regional tension that's expanding in the Middle East. But first, the headlines.
Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan and 8 get 10 years jail in state secrets case. Verdict comes just before the general elections on Feb 8th. Anthony Blinken voices real hope for a deal to pause Gaza fighting in exchange for hostages. Israel's Prime Minister in no mood to withdraw its forces. Ahead of budget, IMF raises India's growth forecast to 6.5% for the year 2024-25. And first, human gets a brain implant from Elon Musk. Neuralink. Telepathy enables control of an electronic device just by thinking. In a major setback for former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, who has been sentenced to 10 years in jail for leaking state secrets. The case pertains to allegations that Khan had shared contents of a secret cable sent by the country's ambassador in Washington to the government in Islamabad. The latest development comes ahead of the scheduled Feb 8th parliamentary elections in Pakistan. Imran Khan and his deputy Shah Mahmood Qureshi have the right to appeal against the ruling in the case. Back home, India's Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Tuesday said that 10 naval ships were sent to the Red Sea for surveillance following attacks on merchant vessels in the region. The Indian Navy has sprung into action and led the rescue and relief efforts of merchant vessels that came under the attack by the Houthi rebels.
The Indian Navy has deployed 10 ships today in that region because we got a double problem. We got a piracy problem and we've got a missile drone problem. If you look, even in the last few days, we actually, one of our ships, I think INS Vishakhapatnam, went in and extinguished a fire and rescued the crew of a tanker which had taken a drone hit. Today in the morning when I came in here, I saw that the Navy had rescued, it's interesting, we rescued Pakistani and Iranian fishermen from pirates.
Well, Israel has expressed its gratitude towards India for its friendship and support and discussed regional security threats, including the security of shipping and regional projects that connect India with West Asia. In a social media post, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said that he discussed India's views, assessments and interest with CATS in this matter. The minister called the talks healthy and added that they will stay in touch. While the West Asia crisis sees a new chapter with every passing day, just as U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken sees real hope in negotiations for a pause in fighting between Israel and Hamas and the release of hostages held by the Islamic group, comes another speed breaker. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in no mood to budge with regards to withdrawal of his soldiers. Caroline Malone is in Washington, D.C. and gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Caroline, mixed signals coming, especially when it comes to the West Asia crisis?
Certainly. Well, the Israel-Hamas conflict is now approaching its 5th month. And the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Tuesday said that Israel won't withdraw its forces from Gaza or free thousands of prisoners. In remarks aired on Israeli TV, Netanyahu added, "We will not end this war short of achieving all its objectives. That means eliminating Hamas, returning all of our hostages, and ensuring that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to Israel." Well, the remarks come as the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that a latest proposal to secure the release of Israeli hostages in Gaza is strong and compelling. He was speaking at a joint press conference with NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg.
In the first go-round, we were able, with our partners in Qatar and Egypt, to get an agreement that resulted in the release of more than 100 hostages. And I believe that the proposal that is on the table and that is shared among all of the critical actors, of course, Israel, but also with Qatar and Egypt playing a critical role in mediating and working between Israel and Hamas. I believe the proposal is a strong one and a compelling one that, again, offers some hope that we can get back to this process.
Well, Israeli military forces also announced on Tuesday that they had neutralized Hamas terrorists who were hiding in a hospital in the occupied West Bank city of Jenin, thwarting an imminent attack. Well, the Israeli military identified one of them as Mohammed Jalanem from Jenin, who had connections to Hamas headquarters abroad and was reportedly planning a raid attack inspired by the October 7th massacre. Another 2 terrorists were identified as locals from the area. Meanwhile, an Israeli intelligence dossier that prompted a number of countries to halt funds for a UN Palestinian aid agency includes allegations that some staff took part in abductions and killings during the October 7th raid that sparked the Gaza conflict. The 6-page dossier reported by a news agency alleges that some 190 UNRWA employees, including teachers, were also Hamas or Islamic Jihad militants. It has the names and photos for 11 people. The United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has met with the head of the internal United Nations investigation team to ensure that the inquiry into Israeli accusations against the staff at the UN agency will be done swiftly and as efficiently as possible.
The Secretary General has remained very active on this issue throughout the weekend and this morning. A few moments ago, he met with the Undersecretary General head of OIOS to ensure that the investigation will be done swiftly and as efficiently as possible. Any employee involved in acts of terror will be held accountable, including through criminal prosecution.
Well, the US military has released the photos of the 3 US troops who were killed in a drone attack on a US base in Jordan. They carried out, the US says, by Iran-backed militants on Sunday. Well, the soldiers have been identified as Specialist Kennedy Ladden Sanders, a 24-year-old, Breonna Alexandria Moffett, a 23-year-old, and Sergeant William Jerome Rivers, who is 46 years old. Sunday's attacks, which wounded dozens of other soldiers, were the first deadly strike against US troops since the Israel-Hamas conflict erupted in October, and it marks a major escalation in tensions that have engulfed the region. Well, more than 40 troops were also injured in Sunday's attacks. As well as that, there have been attacks by the Iran-backed Houthis on ships in the Red Sea that have affected companies and alarmed major world powers. But the White House has said the US is not looking for a war with Iran or seeking to escalate the tensions in the region in the wake of the recent drone attack on its troops in Jordan.
We are not looking for a war with Iran. We are not seeking a conflict with the regime in a military way. And as I said in the opening, we're not looking to escalate here. This attack over the weekend was escalatory. Make no mistake about it. And it requires a response. Make no mistake about that. I will not get ahead of the president's decision-making.
Well, the Kremlin has urged de-escalation in the region amid potential US strikes on Iranian interests in response to that attack on its troops in Jordan. The US claims that the attacks were carried out by Iran-backed militants, but Moscow has emphasized the need to avoid any further destabilization. That after the US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said on Monday that the US vowed to take all necessary actions to defend its troops. Well, the US President Joe Biden's administration has emphasized no desire for war with Iran. Well, on to the Russia-Ukraine conflict now. And Russia's Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu has visited defense industry facilities on Tuesday. He said there has been a significant increase in the volume of production. He said that they have more than doubled production of missiles needed for air defense.
As for the air defense missiles we need, we have more than double the output. I hope that this year's program will be fulfilled in full. In addition, we are modernizing missiles, and this should give a significant increase to what we have today.
Well, the German finance minister, Christian Lindner, has defended Berlin's support for Ukraine in Parliament, stating that money that's been spent is well spent and in Germany's interests. Well, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's coalition has approved doubling military aid to Ukraine to 8 billion euros by the end of November. Well, Lindner's emphasized Germany's leading role in international financial assistance, noting that Germany is the world's second largest supporter of Ukraine.
Germany has an international responsibility. We support Ukraine as the world's second largest supporter, and the official development assistance quote remains unchanged at over 0.6% of our economic output. This makes us an international frontrunner.
Well, Neuralink, a neurotechnology company founded by billionaire Elon Musk and 7 scientists and engineers, has installed a brain implant in its first human recipient with promising initial results. According to Musk, the first product from Neuralink will be called Telepathy. The startup was launched in 2016 and opened a recruitment process seeking participants for its first brain implant trial on humans from last year, after it received approval from the US Food and Drug Administration. Well, people with quadriplegia due to a spinal cord injury and those with ALS were eligible to take part in the study. The neurotechnology company aims to build direct communication channels between the brain and computers. And the idea is to enable people with paralysis to use their thoughts to control external devices. Well, that's it from me here in Washington. Back to you in the studio, Anil.
Thank you, Caroline, for those quick updates. Well, still to come on DD India Global. Maldives opposition asks President Mohamed Muizzi to apologize to India. Nation pays homage to Mahatma Gandhi on his 76th death anniversary.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
You're watching DD India Global. I am Anil Thomas. Vietnam and the Philippines agreed to boost cooperation among their coast guards and to prevent untoward incidents in the South China Sea. The announcement was made during a state visit to Hanoi by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. of the Philippines. The two memorandum of understanding on security covered incident prevention in the South China Sea and maritime cooperation among coast guards. Vietnam also sealed agreements with the Philippines covering rice trade and agricultural cooperation. North Korea fired multiple cruise missiles into the sea in its third such test in less than a week. South Korea and the US intelligence agencies have been closely monitoring the situation amid escalating tensions on the Korean peninsula. Last week, North Korea tested submarine-launched missiles. It is identical to the strategic cruise missiles that Pyongyang launched last week as part of an upgrade to its weapons system.
Our military detected multiple unidentified cruise missiles launched from the North Korea's west coast around 7 a.m. today. And South Korea and the US intelligence authorities are analyzing details. While strengthening surveillance and vigilance, our military is closely cooperating with the United States and monitoring North Korea's activities.
북측 서해상으로 발사된
Well, as political crisis deepens in the Maldives, with opposition parties deciding to bring the impeachment motion against President Mohamed Muizzu, the Maldivian Democratic Party, that's MDP's parliamentary group, has issued a 3-line whip for President Muizzu's impeachment. However, further details on the motion are still awaited. Earlier on Monday, the Parliament of Maldives voted against approving the appointment of Attorney General Ahmed Usman and 2 other ministers. However, President Muizzu reappointed the 3 members to his cabinet. The Supreme Court had ruled in 2010 that no minister can remain in the cabinet without the Parliament's consent. Indian naval ship Sumitra has carried out another successful anti-piracy operation off the east coast of Somalia. INS Sumitra rescued fishing vehicle Al Nemi and its crew, including 19 Pakistani nationals from 11 armed Somali pirates, and after intercepting the vessel. The Indian Navy's indigenous offshore patrol vessel has been deployed for anti-piracy and maritime security operations in the east of Somalia and Gulf of Aden. INS Sumitra, over the course of less than 36 hours, has rescued 2 hijacked fishing vessels along with 36 crew members, which include 17 Iranian and 19 Pakistani, in the southern Arabian Sea, and has prevented the misuse of these fishing vessels as motherships for further acts of piracy on merchant vessels. India's President Draupadi Murmu on Tuesday led the nation in paying tributes to Mahatma Gandhi on his 76th death anniversary. President Murmu, along with Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and other leaders paid tributes to Mahatma Gandhi at Rajghat. The day is also observed as Martyrs' Day. Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated on this day in 1948. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar attended a prayer meeting in remembrance of Mahatma Gandhi at Gandhi Smriti in New Delhi. Some of Bapu's favorite bhajans were sung and a minute of silence was observed to mark the moment of his assassination. Prime Minister Modi also interacted with school children after the prayer meeting. Let's take a look at some other stories making news around the world. Crowds of farmers huddled together around small fires in Paris highways blocked by tractors in the early hours on Tuesday. The protests have been going on for more than a week, with angry farmers seeking to put pressure on the government to do more to help them face inflation, compete with cheap imports and make a living. The complaints by farmers have so far prompted the government to drop plans to gradually reduce subsidies on agricultural diesel and promise to ease environmental regulations. The protests follow similar actions in other European countries, including Germany, Poland, ahead of the European Parliament elections, which take place in June this year. A truck loaded with sulfonic acid overturned in a traffic accident on Monday, spilling its load into a river that supplied the southern Brazilian city of Joinville. The vehicle overturned on a road near the Dona Francisca mountain range, and the hazardous chemical substance spread rapidly and reached the bed of the Cubatão River. No one was reported injured in the incident. The fantastical world of artist Philip Colbert takes center stage at the National Museum in Naples, Italy, as vibrant red lobsters straight from the dream realm now grace the exhibit. The House of the Lobster themed exhibition not only brings a burst of creativity, but it also underscores the enduring essence of mythology in the modern art. Well, the International Monetary Fund, that's IMF, has released its January 2024 World Economic Outlook. It has predicted a highest growth forecast for India in 2024 at 6.5%, raising it by 0.2% or by 20 basis points compared to its October forecast. The report predicted global growth to be steady at 3.1% in 2024 and 3.2% in 2025. The global economy is poised for a soft landing as inflation steadily declines and growth holds up. The pace of expansion will remain slow and the potential for turbulence remains. Lowering trade barriers, including those that impaired flows of low-carbon technology, could strengthen economic growth. Well, India can aspire to become a $7 trillion economy by the year 2030. This is what a review by the Indian Finance Ministry said. Let's take a look at this report for the details.
Ahead of the interim budget, a report by India's Finance Ministry has said the country can aspire to become a $7 trillion economy by 2030. The report, titled The Indian Economy, a Review, also noted that financial year 2024 marks the third successive year of over 7% growth of the Indian economy. That too when the global economy is growing around 3%. That's not all. India is the world's third largest fintech market, and this year it overtook Hong Kong to become the world's fourth largest stock market. The report also highlighted factors that have bolstered the economy. There has been a surge in public sector expenditure in the last 10 years. The same period also witnessed a greater inclusive development and a significant reduction in unemployment. Reforms rolled out by the government helped banks strengthen their balance sheets. Investment incentives have created a startup ecosystem. Government's COVID management and robust vaccination drive helped the economy return to a high growth path. Global praise for the Indian economy in the recent times is a testament to this report. World Economic Forum President Borge Brende said that India is a 10 trillion economy in the making. According to Barclays, the country will remain the world's fastest growing economy in near term, while S&P said that India is set to overtake Japan as third largest economy by 2030. Bureau Report, DD India.
More than 1,100,000 companies have been incorporated in the current financial year till Jan 10th, according to the data that's available from the Indian Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Official sources have said that this was the highest number of firms incorporated so far under the ministry. More than 44,000 limited liability partnerships were incorporated till Jan 10 this year, compared to a little over 28,000 in the corresponding period last year. This is indicative of an increased economic activity in India, and the new registrations are on the version 3 of the MCA portal, and the government has been working to resolve its initial glitches. Well, India is among the most thriving cluster of fintech hubs, says WEF study. India is among the most significant operating countries for hosting a thriving cluster of fintech headquarters, according to the study. The Future of Global Fintech did a global survey on over 200 fintech companies across 5 retail-facing industry and released the report during its annual meeting of 2024. The study reveals that vibrant hubs such as Singapore, United Kingdom, the US and India have hosted a thriving cluster of fintech corporate headquarters. In the unseasonably warm temperatures of northern Spain, sheepskin-clad dancers ushered in the awakening of the earth, marking the start of early carnival festivities. Spanish dancers adorned with heavy bronze bells performed a ceremonial dance to dispel evil spirits and embrace the impending spring. Accompanied by locals in eccentric attire and customized vehicles, the vibrant spectacles signify the community's joyous anticipation of the season ahead. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Global, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, Instagram. You can also find us online at ddindia.com. We're going to be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Anil Thomas from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Global.